A millionaire CEO went to buy flowers for his wedding and shocked to see his lost lover behind the counter with twin sons. Hi, my beautiful family. May the Almighty God crown every woman with unmatched strength, unwavering courage, and a heart overflowing with love that heals everyone around her. May your lives be filled with unshakable peace, your homes overflow with joy, and your spirits rise above every struggle. You are the pillars of life, the invisible hands that hold families together, the silent warriors whose love shapes the world. May every challenge you face turn into triumph, every sorrow be replaced with hope, and every step you take be guided by divine light. May your efforts never go unnoticed, your sacrifices be honored, and your voices celebrated. You deserve eternal respect, endless love, and blessings beyond measure. If your heart is true, like the video, if your love is real, write, "I am with Mr. Peter." Jason Dudley walked into the flower shop on Ocean Drive feeling nothing but obligation. His assistant had called 3 times about finalizing the engagement party arrangements, and Vanessa wanted white orchids specifically from this boutique she'd researched online. He had bigger problems than flowers. A construction deal falling through in New York, his mother demanding he fly back for wedding planning. The constant pressure of running Dudley construction empire at 34 while pretending his life wasn't completely hollow. The shop smelled like jasmine and fresh earth. Sunlight poured through floor-to-ceiling windows, casting everything in gold. Beautiful arrangements lined the walls, vibrant, artistic, nothing like the sterile corporate bouquets he usually saw. Classical music played softly from hidden speakers. The space felt alive in a way Jason's penthouse never did. Then the woman behind the counter turned around from a display of white orchids. Time stopped. Rita Parker stood there in a green sundress that made her dark skin glow like she'd captured every sunset Miami had ever seen. Her natural hair was styled in elegant braids, with silver beads woven through, hoops catching the afternoon light. She was more beautiful than 6 years ago, more powerful, more everything. Those eyes, deep brown and intelligent, met his and turned to absolute winter. "How can I help you?" Her voice was professional, cold, like he was a stranger buying roses for a girlfriend, not the man who'd once promised her forever. Jason couldn't breathe. The air had turned to concrete in his lungs. "Rita, I searched everywhere. I hired investigators for 2 years. You just vanished that night, and I couldn't find any trace." "Engagement package is $450, she interrupted, turning to pull out an order form. "Cash or card?" The words hit like bullets. She knew. She'd known he was coming, known about Vanessa, known everything, and she didn't care. Twin boys burst through the backroom door, identical faces full of 5-year-old energy and mischief. "Mama! Mama! George took my green crayon and I was using it first for the flower stems." "Liam, we share crayons in this shop," Rita said, her hand going protectively to their shoulders. Both boys froze immediately, seeing the tall stranger making their mother's entire body tense like a wire pulled tight. "Boys, go color in the back room, right now." They obeyed instantly, shooting curious glances at Jason before disappearing through the door. Rita's eyes returned to him. Nothing there. No recognition of late nights, talking about changing the world together. No memory of the morning he'd told her he wanted to marry her while they watched sunrise from his balcony. Nothing but professional courtesy and ice. "I'll have everything delivered Friday morning to the Fontainebleau Hotel by 9. Your fiancé has excellent taste in flowers. White orchids with baby's breath and eucalyptus. Very elegant. That'll be $450. The word fiancé was a knife twisting in his chest. Jason pulled out his wallet with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. "Rita, please. 6 years. Just tell me why you left. One conversation. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking." "I didn't leave." Her voice could have frozen oceans. "I was taken, and you didn't look hard enough to find me. Now, cash or card, Mr. Dudley?" She handed him a receipt, making absolutely certain their fingers didn't touch. Jason saw a photograph on the counter as she turned away. Rita, in a wedding dress, looking terrified, standing next to a man whose face had been torn completely out of the frame, just a ripped edge where a person used to be. She'd been married to someone else, while he was searching for her, while he was grieving her like she died. "Please don't come back unless you need more flowers. We close at 7. Rita's voice was final, dismissive, like she was ending a transaction with a difficult customer. She walked to the back room where he could hear the twins arguing cheerfully about crayon colors. The door closed with devastating finality, a barrier between the life she'd built and the man she'd apparently erased from it. Jason stood frozen in sunlight and jasmine, holding a receipt for flowers he'd deliver to celebrate his engagement to a woman he didn't love, while the only woman he'd ever loved pretended he was a stranger who meant nothing. The twins weren't babies. They were 5 years old, talking in full sentences, developed personalities. Rita had disappeared 6 years ago. That meant she'd gotten pregnant almost immediately after leaving, with another man, a man she'd married and apparently divorced badly enough to tear his face from photographs. Outside, Miami heat hit him like a physical force. He stumbled to his rental car and sat there for 30 minutes, unable to start the engine. His phone buzzed constantly. Texts from Vanessa about cake tastings and table settings, his mother demanding updates about the engagement party timeline, business partners asking about the New York deal. He couldn't read any of them. All he could see was Rita's face. The protective way she'd touched those boys, like shielding them from danger. The life she'd clearly built from scratch without him. The absolute absence of love in her eyes when she looked at him. Jason had spent 6 years thinking Rita Parker was lost somewhere, maybe dead, maybe starting over in another city. Now he knew the terrible truth. She'd never been lost. She'd been surviving, building a business, raising children, living an entire life without him. And she'd done it all while he eventually gave up and moved on to safe, comfortable, wrong Vanessa. His phone rang. Vanessa's photo filled the screen. Blonde, smiling, appropriate. He answered because he had to. "Jason, did you approve the orchids? The planner needs confirmation by tonight." "Yeah, they're perfect. White orchids. Very elegant." "You sound strange. Are you okay?" "Just tired. Long day. I'll call you later." He hung up before she could ask more questions. Then he sat in his car outside Parker's Petals as the sun set over Miami, watching through the windows as Rita moved between customers with grace and confidence, the twins occasionally running out to show her drawings or ask questions. A complete family, a complete life, without him. Jason finally started the car and drove back to his hotel, but he couldn't stop seeing Rita's eyes. The way she'd looked at him like he was nothing, like he'd been the one who left, like he was the villain in a story he didn't understand. That night, he made a decision. He wasn't leaving Miami. He wasn't getting married in 3 days. And he wasn't letting Rita disappear again until he understood what had happened 6 years ago to turn love into ice. Chapter 2. Parallel Destructions. 6 years ago, Jason Dudley had just buried his father and inherited an empire he wasn't ready to run. 28 years old, drowning in board meetings and construction contracts and expectations that felt like concrete blocks tied to his chest. His father had died suddenly, heart attack at 59, and everyone expected Jason to simply step into those massive shoes without stumbling. He'd gone to a city council meeting about affordable housing because his company was proposing a luxury development downtown. And he needed to show community engagement, stand there, look concerned, make promises about tax revenue and jobs, standard corporate performance. That's where he met Rita Parker. She was 26, a social worker who stood at the public comment microphone and absolutely destroyed his company's proposal with statistics and passion that made the entire room go silent. "You want to build condos that cost $2 million each, while families with children are sleeping in cars 3 blocks from this building. While teachers and nurses can't afford to live in the city where they work. Tell me how that serves our community, Mr. Dudley." Jason had been completely fascinated. After the meeting, he'd found her in the parking lot, her arms full of folders about housing displacement. What if I said I'd include 20% affordable units in the development? I'd say you're lying to impress me and you'll quietly drop that promise once the permits are approved. You're right. I am lying to impress you, but I'll actually do it and put it in writing if you have dinner with me. She'd laughed, bright and unexpected, and said yes. 6 months later, Jason was completely, devastatingly in love. Rita challenged every privileged assumption he'd grown up with, made him see the world through eyes that actually noticed suffering, supported his grief over losing his father while pushing him to be better than simply comfortable. She was fierce about her work with homeless families, brilliant in ways that had nothing to do with money or status, and when she looked at him, Jason felt like the man he wanted to become, instead of the boy pretending to fill his father's enormous shoes. They'd talked about marriage constantly, about building something real together, not just wealth, but actual impact on communities. Jason had started restructuring his company to prioritize mixed-income developments. Rita had introduced him to neighborhoods he'd never engaged with before, families struggling in ways he'd never understood. They were building a future that mattered. His mother, Diane Dudley, hated everything about it. Rita was black, working class, completely inappropriate for the family legacy and what your father built. She'd said it directly to Jason's face during a family dinner when he'd mentioned buying a ring. "You'll embarrass this family. That girl is using you for money and status." "Rita has never asked me for anything. She makes me want to be better." "You're thinking with something other than your brain. This infatuation will pass." Rita's father, Gerald Parker, hated the relationship even more. A white millionaire with his daughter. Gerald had worked 2 jobs his entire life, postal worker during the day, security guard at night, to give Rita opportunities. He saw Jason as exactly the kind of man who'd use his daughter and leave her destroyed. "Those people don't marry girls like you, Rita. They play around and move on to their own kind." "Dad, Jason isn't like that. We love each other." "Love doesn't pay bills when he gets bored. Love doesn't protect you when his family decides you're not good enough." But Jason and Rita had ignored them both. They were adults. They were in love. Nothing else mattered. Then, one Wednesday morning, Rita was gone. Jason had come by her apartment to surprise her with breakfast. The door was unlocked. Inside, everything was cleared out, furniture gone, closets empty, like she'd never lived there at all. Her phone went straight to disconnected. Her job said she'd resigned effective immediately. Friends said they hadn't heard from her and seemed genuinely confused. Her father said she'd left town for a fresh start and didn't want Jason contacting her. She realized you two were from different worlds. Best to let her go, son. Jason had hired investigators immediately, 3 different firms over 2 years. They'd found nothing. Rita Parker had vanished like she'd never existed. No forwarding address, no credit card activity, no social media presence. One investigator suggested she might have changed her name or left the country. His mother had been sympathetic in her cold way. "She probably realized the pressure was too much, darling. These things happen when people from different backgrounds try to force relationships. You'll find someone more suitable." Jason had grieved like Rita died. 4 years of barely functioning, running his company on autopilot, going through motions, feeling hollow. His mother pushed him toward Vanessa Laurent, a family friend's daughter. Appropriate, safe, blonde and elegant, and everything his mother wanted. Jason had been so tired of being alone, so tired of hoping Rita would somehow reappear, so he'd said yes to dating, yes to the relationship, eventually yes when Vanessa suggested getting engaged. He'd never loved Vanessa like he loved Rita, but Rita was gone, probably married to someone else, probably happy somewhere Jason would never find her. Except Rita wasn't gone. She was running a flower shop in Miami with twin sons and ice in her eyes, where love used to live. That night in his hotel room, Jason Googled obsessively, found old articles. Single mother builds successful flower business from homeless shelter. His blood went cold. Homeless shelter. Local woman wins Phoenix Award for domestic violence survivors. Phoenix Award for survivors. The torn wedding photo suddenly made horrifying sense. Rita hadn't left him. She'd been forced away. And whoever she'd married had hurt her badly enough that she'd ended up in a homeless shelter while pregnant with twins. Jason called his lead investigator at midnight. "I need you to find everything about Rita Parker in Miami, everything from 6 years ago until now. I don't care what it costs or how long it takes." The man hesitated. "Mr. Dudley, I thought you were getting married this weekend. The engagement is off. Just do it. I need to know what happened to her." Jason stood at his hotel window, looking out at Miami's glittering skyline, and felt rage building like pressure in his chest. Someone had hurt Rita. Someone had taken her away from him. Someone had left her homeless and pregnant and alone, and Jason had a sickening feeling that when he found out who, the answer would destroy what was left of his family. Chapter 3. The Fortress. For 3 weeks, Jason invented reasons to visit Parker's Petals. Flowers for his hotel room that he replaced every other day, elaborate arrangements for business contacts he barely knew, corporate gifts for a Miami office that didn't actually exist yet. Rita remained professionally pleasant and completely distant. She took his orders, processed his payments, delivered perfect arrangements, and treated him like any other customer who meant absolutely nothing. He watched her with the twins during those visits, studying this life she'd built. She was an extraordinary mother, patient when Liam spilled water all over his careful drawings, firm when George got too loud with other customers, loving in ways that made Jason's chest physically ache. The boys clearly adored her with uncomplicated devotion. They brought her every small triumph like offerings. "Mama, look! I drew a butterfly. Mama, I helped that lady find the pink roses she wanted." Liam was quiet, artistic, always drawing elaborate scenes with careful attention to detail. He'd spend 30 minutes perfecting flower petals in crayon. George was energetic, protective of his brother, quick to laugh and make friends with customers. Both boys were brilliant and beautiful and carried themselves with confidence that spoke to how loved they were. Jason noticed they never asked about their father. Not once in 3 weeks of watching. One afternoon, George announced cheerfully to a customer, "We don't have a daddy, just Mama, and that's perfect." The customer had looked uncomfortable. Rita had simply smiled and said, "We're a complete family exactly as we are." But Jason also noticed the moments Rita's guard slipped, the way her hands shook slightly when arranging white roses for a wedding, how she'd disappear to the back room sometimes and come out with red eyes she'd clearly tried to hide. The nightmares she must have had, based on the dark circles some mornings. This wasn't a woman who'd moved on peacefully. This was a woman surviving. On his 10th visit, Rita finally confronted him. The shop was empty except for them, twins in the back room watching a movie on a tablet. "Why do you keep coming here, Jason?" "I need flowers. You need answers. I'm not giving them, so stop wasting your money and my time." "I can't stop thinking about you." "Try harder. You're getting married in 2 weeks. Go focus on your fiancé." "I cancelled the engagement." Rita's hands stopped moving in the roses she'd been arranging. "That was stupid. Marrying someone I don't love would have been stupid. You don't know me anymore. The girl you knew 6 years ago doesn't exist. Then let me know who you are now." Rita turned to face him fully, and her eyes were devastating. "I'm a single mother who built a business from nothing. I wake up at 5 every morning to prep flowers before the twins wake up. I work 70 hours a week. I have nightmares about things you can't imagine. I've learned to be alone because depending on anyone else is how you get destroyed. That's who I am now, someone you wouldn't recognize. I recognize strength. I recognize resilience. I recognize the woman I fell in love with, just harder. Don't romanticize survival, Jason. It's not beautiful. It's ugly and exhausting and lonely." A customer entered, ending the conversation, but Jason saw Rita's hands shaking as she made the arrangement. That evening, Jason's investigator called with preliminary findings. "Mr. Dudley, I found the marriage record. Rita Parker married Terrence Moore 6 years ago, 1 week after she disappeared from your life. The marriage lasted exactly 1 day before he filed for divorce." Jason's vision went red. One day, divorce papers cite irreconcilable differences. Looks like Terrence received a payment of $50,000 from Gerald Parker around the same time. I'm still tracking the money trail, but it appears Rita's father paid someone to marry his daughter. Find Terrence Moore. I want his address. Mr. Dudley, I'd advise against find him today. Jason found Terrence Moore living in a luxury condo in Brickell, clearly doing well for himself. 45 years old, smug face, expensive clothes. Jason didn't call ahead, just showed up and knocked. Can I help you? Terrence's voice was oil smooth. You married Rita Parker 6 years ago. Recognition flickered across Terrence's face, followed by amusement. The social worker? Yeah. Easiest $50,000 I ever made. One night, signed the divorce papers the next morning. Her father paid well for a quick solution. Jason broke his nose with one punch. Terrence dropped, blood pouring. What the hell? I'm calling the police. Call them. Tell them why you were paid to marry a woman. Tell them what you did to her that night. Terrence's eyes went calculating even through the pain. I did what her father paid me to do. Consummated the marriage so it would be legal, then ended it. All perfectly legal. She was his daughter. His decision. Jason wanted to kill him. Actually contemplated it. Instead, he walked out before he did something that would land him in prison. The police arrested him 2 hours later. Assault. Terrence pressed charges, demanding $25,000 for medical bills and pain and suffering. Jason wrote the check without blinking. Money meant nothing. Rita's father had sold her to this man for $50,000. Rita had to pick him up from the police station because they'd listed her as a contact when they ran Terrence's background. She arrived looking exhausted and furious, twins with a babysitter somewhere safe. In her car, Rita exploded. You think I need you to fight my battles? I survived, Terrence. I survived everything. I don't need your rage or your revenge. He raped you. He took money to marry you and I dealt with it. Rita's voice cracked. I survived the worst night of my life. I raised his children alone. I built my business from a homeless shelter with twins in a playpen behind me. I don't need you getting arrested like some possessive ex-boyfriend who thinks violence solves anything. I'm not your ex. I never stopped being in love with you. Rita pulled over on a quiet side street, turned to him with tears streaming down her beautiful face. You were in love with who I was. I'm not her anymore. That girl died in a shelter bed while pregnant with her rapist's children. I'm what crawled out of those ashes. You're stronger, more beautiful, more everything. I'm broken, Jason, shattered into pieces I glued back together wrong. I have 2 sons from a man who hurt me in ways I still feel. I wake up some nights still feeling his hands, and I can't breathe. I built walls so high nobody gets in. Derek has been trying for 2 years and he can't reach me. What makes you think you can? Who's Derek? Someone kind, someone present, someone who didn't give up searching after 2 years. The words hit like bullets. Jason deserved everyone. The twins aren't yours, Rita continued. They're Terrence's, biologically. When they're older, they'll ask about their father, and I'll have to tell them he was paid to marry me for one night. How do I explain that without breaking them? Then I'll help you figure it out, in a way that doesn't break them or you. Why? Why would you want to raise another man's children? Because they're your children, and I love you. That math is simple. Rita broke completely. 6 years of carefully maintained strength crumbling like walls made of sand. She sobbed in her car for 20 minutes while Jason held her, feeling her shake against him, hearing sounds of pain he'd never imagined. When she finally stopped, exhausted and hollow-sounding, I can't do this. I can't let you in just to watch you leave again when it gets hard. I'm not leaving. Everyone leaves. My mother died. My father threw me out. Terrence took his money and disappeared. Even you stopped searching eventually. I stopped searching in the wrong places. I should have looked in shelters and crisis centers. I should have torn apart your father's finances. I should have questioned my mother. I failed you, and I'll regret that until I die. But I'm not failing you again." Rita drove him back to his hotel without responding. At the entrance, she finally spoke. "Stay away from Terence. Stay away from my father. I don't need you making my life more complicated." Then she drove away into Miami traffic, leaving Jason standing alone under expensive hotel lights, realizing that winning Rita back wasn't about grand gestures or dramatic confrontations. It was about proving day after day, year after year if necessary, that he wouldn't leave, that he could be trusted, that he was worth the terrifying risk of being vulnerable again. Chapter 4. The Investigation. Jason's investigator delivered the full report 1 week later. Sitting in his hotel suite, Jason read the documented destruction of Rita's life and felt physically sick. 6 years ago, Gerald Parker had discovered Jason's trust fund was worth $50 million. Gerald, who'd worked 2 jobs his entire adult life, saw both dollar signs and danger. He'd gone to Diane Dudley with a proposition. "Your son is pursuing my daughter. I know you don't want this relationship. I know someone, Terence Moore, a deacon at my church, respectable, established. He'll marry Rita and end this mess. You make sure Jason doesn't interfere." Diane's response, documented in emails the investigator had uncovered. "I'll do better. I'll make Rita disappear completely so my son can move on appropriately." Together, they'd crafted the trap. Diane's lawyers created fake harassment complaints from anonymous workers at Jason's construction sites, showed them to Gerald with a threat. If Rita doesn't leave Jason voluntarily, these get filed publicly. His company won't survive the scandal so soon after his father's death. The lawsuits alone will bankrupt him within a year. Gerald had taken the false documents to Rita. The investigator had found a witness, Rita's co-worker from the social services department, who remembered that terrible week. Rita had come to work crying, saying her father was forcing her to end things with Jason to protect his company, that she was being made to marry someone else to prevent Jason's family legacy from being destroyed. She was terrified, the co-worker's statement read, but she loved him enough to sacrifice everything. She thought she was saving him. Rita had married Terence in a cold courthouse ceremony. No joy, no hope, just Gerald's satisfaction and Diane's victory. The wedding night, according to Terence's own bragging to friends documented in the investigation, "Her father paid me 50 grand to marry her and consummate it. I did my job, filed for divorce the next morning, kept the money. Easiest payday ever." The vasectomy Terence claimed to have had apparently failed. Rare, but possible. The twins were biologically his, proof of the worst night of Rita's life. 2 weeks after the divorce, Rita discovered she was pregnant, went to her father for help. Gerald's disgust was immediate and documented in a neighbor's testimony. "I heard him screaming at her through the walls, calling her an embarrassment, telling her to get out of his house." Rita's mother had died when Rita was 16, no other family, couldn't contact Jason because Diane's lawyers were watching for any communication, pregnant with twins from her rapist, nowhere to go. She'd ended up at Hope House, a women's shelter, 8 weeks pregnant with nothing. Jason read every page twice, then he flew to New York without calling ahead. His mother was hosting her weekly charity luncheon when he walked into her Fifth Avenue apartment. Elegant women in expensive clothes, discussing fundraising for arts programs while drinking champagne that cost more than most families spent on groceries monthly. "Did you know where Rita was? Did you know she was homeless and pregnant?" The room went silent. Diane Dudley didn't flinch, just set down her champagne glass with perfect composure. "Jason, I have guests. This is inappropriate. Answer me or I start explaining to your charity friends how you orchestrated my girlfriend's forced marriage and homelessness." The guests left quickly, uncomfortable with family drama invading their perfect afternoon. When the apartment was empty, his mother's confession was worse than even the investigator's report suggested. She described it all with the emotional investment of discussing stock portfolios. "I orchestrated everything with Gerald Parker. Rita was completely inappropriate. Wrong background, wrong race, wrong everything for our family legacy. Her father wanted her married to someone suitable from their community. I wanted her gone from your life. We made a mutually beneficial arrangement. She was homeless, pregnant with twins from a man who raped her. Did you know? I knew about the marriage arrangement. The rest wasn't my concern. She should have handled her situation better instead of becoming a burden on public resources. Jason's voice went cold, deadly calm. I'm removing you from every company board effective immediately. You're out of my life completely. My lawyers will contact you about restructuring the family trust to ensure you never profit from the company Dad built again. Stay away from Rita. Stay away from those boys. If you go near them, I'll spend every penny I have destroying your reputation in the society circles you care about so much. Diane stood, face tight with rage. You can't do this over some girl. She was never some girl. She was the woman I loved. You destroyed her entire life because she didn't meet your racist, classist standards. You helped a man rape her. You made her homeless while carrying children. You're evil, and I'm done. He left his mother's apartment and never looked back. On the flight back to Miami, Jason called Rita. I cut my mother out of everything. Company, family, trust, all of it. I didn't ask you to do that. I know. I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it because it's right. What she did was evil. I should have questioned her 6 years ago when you disappeared. Rita was quiet for a long moment. Derek proposed again last night. 5th time. Jason's world stopped. His hand tightened on the phone. What did you say? I said I need to think about it. He's good to me. Good to the twins. Present. Everything you weren't. I know. I should say yes. He's safe. Stable. He doesn't come with the baggage you bring. Probably. But I can't stop thinking about you standing in my shop buying flowers for another woman and looking at me like I was your entire world falling apart. You are. You always were. That's not fair, Jason. You don't get to show up after 6 years and... I'm not trying to be fair. I'm being honest. I love you. I'll love you if you marry Derek. I'll love you if you tell me to leave Miami forever. I'll love you when I'm 80. That's just fact now. Rita hung up, but she didn't block his number. Jason stared at his phone for the entire remainder of the flight, hoping that meant something. Chapter 5. Earning it. Jason returned to Miami and went straight to Rita's shop the next morning. 7 a.m. She was already there, prepping flowers in the early light. Let me work here. Minimum wage. I'll prove I can show up every single day. Rita looked at him like he'd lost his mind. That's ridiculous. You run a construction empire. So, I'll run it from here. Let me prove I've changed, that I can be reliable. You'll quit after 1 week when you realize how hard actual work is. Try me. If I'm late once or quit, I'm done. You never have to see me again. Rita studied him, then made a decision. 7 a.m. tomorrow. If you're late once, you're fired, and you leave me alone forever. Jason showed up at 6:45 the next morning, and every morning after that. For 3 months, he learned Rita's business from the bottom up. He was terrible at flower arranging initially. His first rose bouquet looked like it had been attacked by a lawnmower. Rita didn't give him any slack, just made him do it again until it met her standards. He learned inventory management, supplier negotiations, delivery schedules, customer service. The work was physically exhausting and mentally detailed in ways running a construction empire never prepared him for. The twins warmed to him slowly. Jason didn't try to force connection or play dad. Just Mr. Jason who helps Mama. He'd sit with Liam and admire his drawings, ask genuine questions about color choices and compositions. He'd play simple ball games with George in the shop's back room during slow periods. Careful, patient, earning their trust inch by inch. But Derek's presence increased simultaneously. He came by the shop often, bringing lunch, fixing the air conditioning when it broke, helping Rita with business paperwork. Derek Hughes was 38, a contractor who'd renovated the shop 2 years ago. Kind face, steady presence, genuinely good with the twins. They ran to him with uncomplicated joy. Derek! Derek! Watch this! He'd been proposing regularly for a year, patient with Rita's hesitation. Jason watched Derek with Rita and the twins and felt jealousy mixing with grudging respect. Derek was everything Jason should have been: present, consistent, undemanding. He showed up for school events and fixed broken things and made the twins laugh with terrible dad jokes. He was perfect. One evening, Derek confronted Jason in the shop's parking lot after closing. "I know who you are. Rita told me everything." "Then you know I love her." "Love isn't enough when you've been gone for 6 years. I was here when she had nightmares so bad she couldn't sleep, when the twins had chicken pox and she was running a business with sick kids, when the shop almost went under during the pandemic and she nearly lost everything. Where were you?" "Not here, I know." "So why should she choose you? Give me one good reason." "She shouldn't. You're the better choice. You're the right choice." Derek studied him. "But she loves you. Still, after everything. She won't say it, but I see it. Every time she looks at you, she looks like she's drowning and you're air." "I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry. Be worthy of her. If you're staying, actually stay. Because if you hurt her again, I'll make breaking Terrence's nose look like a play date." "Fair." They stood in the parking lot, two men who both loved the same extraordinary woman, understanding that only she could make this choice. Over the following weeks, Jason learned Rita's life in detail. Her favorite flowers were actually simple daisies, not expensive orchids. She drank her coffee black with exactly 1 sugar. She volunteered at the women's shelter where she'd lived while pregnant, teaching floral design skills to help other survivors build job prospects. She had nightmares about white roses because that was what she'd carried at her wedding to Terrence. Jason started helping with her volunteer work, not making big financial donations, but showing up to help teach classes, contributing his construction expertise to help repair the shelter building, not trying to fix Rita's past with money, just being present in her healing. One night after volunteer work, Rita broke down. A new shelter resident had come in, recently divorced, pregnant, terrified. Rita had handled intake with perfect professionalism, then disappeared to the bathroom. Jason found her crying quietly in the hallway afterward. "I thought I was over it. The wedding, Terrence, being pregnant and alone. Then I smell white roses or see a terrified pregnant woman and I'm 26 again, trapped." Jason just held her, didn't try to fix it. "You're not trapped anymore. You're the strongest person I know." "I'm tired of being strong." "Then let me be strong for you, just for tonight." She let him hold her for exactly 10 minutes before pulling away and rebuilding her walls. But it was progress. The shift happened gradually. Jason stopped trying to win Rita back romantically, started actually supporting her dreams instead. She wanted to open a second shop location. He helped with business planning, market research, location analysis. Not financing it, just partnering in the strategy. She wanted to create a scholarship for at-risk youth interested in floral design. He connected her with his company's charitable foundation and helped structure the program. Not grand gestures. Partnership, respect, showing up. Rita noticed. It terrified her more than his absence ever had. Derek was safe. Jason was dangerous. Derek wouldn't break her heart because she didn't love him enough for that power. Jason could destroy her completely. Then Derek proposed publicly at a community event where Rita was being honored for her volunteer work. Down on one knee in front of hundreds of people. Beautiful ring. Speech about building a life together and loving her exactly as she was. The twins clapped excitedly, not fully understanding, but caught up in the moment. Rita looked at Derek, at the boys, at Jason in the back of the crowd, dying inside but smiling because he wanted her happiness more than his own. She didn't say yes, didn't say no, just, "Let me think about it." Derek, patient as always, "Take all the time you need." But everyone watching knew the answer should be yes. Derek was the right choice. Jason was the romantic choice. Rita was a mother with responsibilities. She had to choose stability over passion. Later that night, Jason showed up at her house uninvited. Rita opened the door looking exhausted. "I'm not here to convince you of anything," Jason said. "I just need you to know something. If you marry Derek, I'll be happy for you. Actually happy, not pretending. Because he's good and kind and he'll take care of you and the twins. You deserve that safety. You deserve someone who was there when I wasn't. Then why are you here? Because I also need you to know that I love you, completely. Not the memory of who you were, but exactly who you are now. The nightmares and the strength and the walls you've built. All of it. And if you need a year or 5 years or forever to trust that, I'll wait. I'm not going anywhere. Rita stared at him. You're making this so much harder. I know. I'm sorry. Derek is safe. I know. But I don't love him. Not the way he deserves. Not the way I still love you, even though I wish I didn't. Jason's breath caught. Rita, don't. I'm not ready. I might never be ready. The girl who trusted easily died in that shelter. I don't know if I can be vulnerable like that again. Then don't. Not until you're sure. Rita's eyes filled with tears. Why are you being so understanding? Because I love you enough to want you happy, even if that happiness doesn't include me. She closed the door without another word, but Jason heard her crying on the other side, and that sound broke something in him. Chapter 6. The Slow Realization. 2 weeks after Derek's proposal. Rita still hadn't given an answer, and Derek was starting to look tired around the edges from waiting. Jason continued working at the shop. 6 months now. He'd become genuinely good at flower arranging, had developed regular customers who requested him specifically, understood Rita's business rhythm like breathing. Some mornings they worked in comfortable silence, moving around each other with practiced ease. Other mornings the tension was thick enough to choke on. The twins bonded with Jason deeper as weeks passed. Not forced connection, natural, real, the kind that happens when someone shows up consistently. One afternoon, Liam brought Jason a drawing. Mr. Jason, I drew you, see? You're helping Mama with the big roses because they're heavy. Jason studied the crayon picture. Simple figures but recognizable. Rita, Jason, flowers everywhere. This is beautiful, Liam. Can I keep it? Yeah, I made it for you. Liam's face lit up with uncomplicated joy. George got into a fight at kindergarten that week. Another kid said, your daddy is bad and he's in jail. Terence had a record from a DUI years before. George came home with a black eye and tear-stained face. Rita was comforting him on the shop's backroom couch when Jason finished inventory. George was sobbing in her arms. Why is our daddy bad? Why isn't he nice like Derek or Mr. Jason? Rita froze, searching for words that wouldn't damage him. Jason knelt down beside them carefully. George, some grown-ups make bad choices. That's not your fault. And you know what? You get to decide what kind of man you're going to be when you grow up. You don't have to be like him at all. George looked at Jason with 5-year-old seriousness. I want to be like you when I grow up. You're nice and you make Mama smile. He hugged Jason spontaneously. First time. Jason looked at Rita over George's head and saw her crying silently. Derek noticed the shift happening. He came to Rita's house for dinner one evening, something he did 3 times weekly. The twins were excited to see him, showing him drawings and telling stories, but differently than before. They talked about, Mr. Jason taught me this, and Mr. Jason says that, and Mr. Jason brought us donuts this morning. After the twins went to bed, Derek sat with Rita on her small porch. They love him. Rita couldn't deny it. They love you too. It's different. I'm the safe friend. He's becoming their person. Derek, I don't know what to say. I never meant to. Don't apologize. You can't control who kids bond with. But Rita, you need to make a choice. I won't wait forever while you figure out if you're brave enough to choose Jason. It's not about bravery. Yes, it is. You're terrified he'll leave again. So you're choosing me because I'm safe and predictable, and I won't break your heart because you don't love me enough to give me that power, but that's not fair to either of us. He was right. Rita knew he was completely right. I care about you so much, Rita said. You've been incredibly patient and kind. But you don't love me, not the way I love you, and I deserve someone who does. Derek left that night with Grace, kissed her forehead, told her to take care of herself, drove away without anger. The twins asked the next day why Derek wasn't coming over. Rita had to explain that sometimes people care about each other, but aren't right for forever. She didn't run to Jason afterward. She needed to be okay alone first, to fix herself before letting anyone in. But then Gerald Parker returned. Rita's father showed up at the shop 6 years after throwing her out. Older, gaunt, moving slowly. Cancer had aged him dramatically. "Rita, I want to meet my grandsons." "You don't have grandsons. You gave up that right when you threw me out pregnant." "I was angry. I made mistakes. But they're family. They're Parkers. They're mine. You sold me to a rapist for $50,000. You don't get forgiveness because you're dying." Gerald's face hardened with familiar anger. "I'm sick, Rita. Stage 3 cancer. I want to make things right before—" "No, you don't get deathbed redemption. You forced me to marry Terrence. You took money to sell me like property. You threw me out when I needed you most. Dying doesn't erase any of that. You always were ungrateful, just like your mother before she died. Get out of my shop." Those boys should know their real grandfather, and I'll tell them about Jason too, how his family paid to get rid of you, how you were too weak to fight for yourself. Jason appeared from the back room, where he'd been organizing deliveries. "You need to leave, right now," Gerald sneered. "The White Knight, you weren't there when she needed you. I'm her father. You're the man who sold his daughter. Leave before I call the police for trespassing." Gerald left, but threatened. "I have rights, grandparent rights. I'll see those boys in court." Rita collapsed after he drove away. Jason held her while she shook with rage and old grief. "He can't take them. He can't. They're all I have." "He won't? We'll fight him with everything. Together. If you'll let me." "I'm not going anywhere, Rita." She looked at him. Really looked at him. 6 months of showing up early, learning her business, defending her from her father, bonding with her sons, never pushing, just being there. "Why are you still here, Jason? Really?" "Because leaving would be the biggest mistake of my life. I made that mistake once. I won't make it again." That night, Rita made a decision. She called Derek and asked to meet for coffee, told him she couldn't marry him. She was crying the entire conversation. "It's Jason," Derek said simply. "It's me. I need to figure out who I am when I'm not just surviving. And I can't do that while using you as a safety net. You deserve someone who loves you completely." "I love you, Rita." "I know. I love you too. Just not the way you deserve. I'm sorry." Derek left with grace and dignity, like he did everything. The twins were sad when he stopped coming over, but they adjusted. Kids were resilient that way. But Rita didn't run to Jason either. She needed to be okay alone first, to learn who she was without walls or fear. So she started therapy seriously. Twice weekly sessions dealing with the PTSD, the rape, the abandonment, all of it. Jason respected her space, worked at the shop, helped with the twins when asked, waited. Chapter 7. The engagement party reveal, 3 weeks later. Jason's engagement party to Vanessa was still technically scheduled in New York. His mother had planned it months ago with deposits and invitations and expectations. Vanessa deserved an actual conversation before Jason completely humiliated her publicly. He flew to New York and met her for coffee before any party preparations began. "I can't marry you." Vanessa Laurent was sophisticated and genuinely kind. She'd always known something was missing but had hoped it would grow into love eventually. "I know. I've known since you came back from Miami talking about business expansion, but really meaning you found your ex-girlfriend. I'm sorry. You deserve someone who loves you the way you should be loved." "I agree. And for what it's worth, I hope she's worth the wait." "She is. I'm just not sure I'm worth her." "Then become worthy. That's how love actually works." Vanessa cancelled the engagement party herself, handling it with grace that made Jason grateful he'd never actually married her. His mother was furious, calling repeatedly, leaving messages about family reputation and embarrassment. Jason blocked her number. Meanwhile in Miami, Terrence showed up at Rita's shop. First time in 5 years. He looked rough. Addiction and bad choices had aged him badly. shaking slightly, desperate around the eyes. I need money. Get out. Those are my kids legally. I have rights. DNA will prove it. You divorced me and disappeared. You have no rights. I'm their biological father. Maybe I'll go for custody. You're a single mom working retail. I'm a church deacon with a respectable position. You're a rapist who was paid to marry me for one night. Prove it. It's your word against mine. And good luck convincing a judge that a respected deacon would do something like that. Rita was shaking but stood firm. If you come near me or my sons again, I'm filing a restraining order. I have documented proof of the marriage contract, the payment from my father, everything. Try me. Terence left, but the threat lingered in the air like poison. Rita called Jason immediately. Terence came to the shop, threatening custody. Jason was on the next flight back to Miami. Are you okay? Are the twins safe? We're fine, I handled it. But Jason, I'm scared. What if he actually tries for custody? Then we fight him with lawyers and documentation and everything we have. He's a man who was paid to rape you. No judge will give him custody. You don't know that. He's right that he's their biological father. Courts favor biological parents. We'll make sure the judge knows exactly what kind of man he is. I promise. Rita's voice was small. Why do you keep saying we? Because I love you. Because those boys are part of you, which makes them important to me. Because I'm not letting you fight alone anymore. I've been alone for 6 years. I know, and I hate that. But you don't have to be alone now if you don't want to be. Rita was silent for a long moment. I don't know how to trust that. Then I'll prove it, every day, for as long as it takes. That night, Rita showed up at Jason's hotel. He answered the door surprised, wearing jeans and a t-shirt, looking younger than his years. I need you to understand something, Rita said without preamble. I've been alone for 6 years. I rebuilt myself alone. I don't need you to fight my battles or fix my life. I know, but I'm tired, Jason. So tired of being strong alone, of making every decision alone, of parenting alone, of being scared alone. Then let me share it, not fix it, share it. Rita stepped closer, and Jason could smell her perfume, something floral he didn't recognize. If I let you in and you leave again, it will destroy me completely. I barely survived the first time. There won't be anything left of me if it happens again. I won't leave. I'll die first. How do I trust that? You don't. Not yet. I have to earn it every single day, for as long as it takes. I know that. Rita kissed him then, desperate and afraid, and full of 6 years of longing. Jason kissed back for exactly 15 seconds before pulling away gently. Rita, wait. I don't want to be something you do when you're scared or tired. I want to be something you choose when you're strong and sure. It was the most mature thing he'd ever said to her. Rita stared at him. You've really changed. You changed me. 6 years ago and every day since I found you again. I don't know if I can do this. Be vulnerable again. Risk my heart again. Then don't. Not until you're absolutely ready. I'll wait. Rita left, but at the door she turned back. Thank you for not pushing, for respecting my boundaries. Thank you for not slamming the door completely. Later that night, alone in her house with twins asleep, Rita pulled out the old photo she'd kept hidden, her and Jason at the beach 6 years ago, laughing, in love, everything ahead of them. She stared at it for an hour, crying silently. Then she texted Jason, "Come to the shop tomorrow, 7 a.m. We need to talk." Jason, awake instantly. "I'll be there." Rita typed, deleted, typed again. "Bring coffee, and maybe bring yourself ready to fight for this." She actually sent it this time. Jason responded immediately. "I've been ready for 6 years." Rita sat with her phone in the dark, terrified and hopeful for the first time in 6 years. Maybe. Just maybe. Chapter 8. The Reckoning. 7 a.m. Jason arrived at Parker's Petals with 2 coffees, both exactly how Rita liked them, black with 1 sugar. She pulled up looking exhausted but determined, like she'd been awake all night making impossible decisions. They sat on the shop's front steps in Miami's humid dawn, early sunlight making everything look soft and forgiving. "I need you to understand what you're signing up for," Rita started. No preamble, just honesty. "I have nightmares about Terrence that wake me up screaming sometimes. The twins hear it and get scared. I can't always explain what's wrong. Some nights I wake up and can't breathe because I'm back in that hotel room with him. I'm in therapy, but it's slow, years slow, maybe forever slow." "Okay." "The twins ask about their father constantly now. They hear things at school. I don't know what to tell them that won't damage them. How do I explain that their dad was paid to hurt me without making them feel like mistakes?" "We'll figure it out together. When they're old enough to understand, we'll find words that give them truth without trauma." "What happens when your New York life calls? When the company needs you there? When you realize being a stepfather to another man's children is harder than you thought? When people judge you for raising a black woman's kids from a forced marriage?" Jason set down his coffee and turned to face her fully. "I restructured my entire company. Miami is headquarters now. New York is secondary with managers I trust. That's permanent, whether you choose me or not. And those twins? I've watched Liam show me his drawings every day for 6 months. I've watched George defend his mother and brother with 5-year-old fierceness. They're incredible because you raised them to be incredible. Being their father, if they'll let me, would be an honor, not a burden. Never a burden." Rita's voice cracked. "They're not yours biologically. They'll never look like you. People will stare and make assumptions and judge you. I don't care what strangers think. I care about you. I care about Liam and George. That's it. That's everything that matters to me now. Jason, I'm terrified. What if you wake up one day and realize this is too hard, that I'm too broken to fix, that loving me isn't worth the complications? You're not broken, you're a survivor. There's a huge difference." "I don't feel like a survivor. I feel like I'm barely holding myself together with duct tape and willpower." Jason took her hands carefully, first time really initiating touch. "Then let me help hold it together. Not because you need me to, but because you shouldn't have to do it alone anymore when you don't want to be alone." Rita broke then, started crying, and couldn't stop. "I never told you something. The night before I married Terrence, I knew what was coming. My father had made it very clear what he expected, so I came to your apartment, 3 a.m. You were asleep inside. I stood outside your door for 2 hours trying to find the courage to knock, to tell you everything, to beg you to run away with me." Jason felt his heart breaking. "Why didn't you?" "Because I loved you too much. Your father had just died. Your company was vulnerable. Your mother had lawyers ready to destroy everything. If I told you and you fought it, you would have lost the company, your father's entire legacy. So I walked away. I married Terrence to protect you, and I've been punishing myself ever since for not being brave enough to choose us over everything else. You were protecting me. You sacrificed yourself to save what my father built. I thought it was the right choice, the noble choice. But I've spent 6 years wondering if I was just a coward who took the easy way out instead of fighting. You weren't a coward. You were trapped by 2 manipulative people who saw you as a problem to solve instead of a person to love." Gerald Parker's car pulled up then, interrupting them. He got out slowly. Cancer had made him gaunt, his movements painful, but his eyes were still angry and entitled. "Rita, we need to talk about my grandsons." Rita stood, Jason beside her. "You don't have grandsons. You have a DNA connection to 2 boys you've never met and don't deserve to know." "I'm dying. I want to know them before I'm gone." "You want absolution. That's different. You don't get to show up dying and erase 6 years of abandonment by claiming grandfather's rights." Gerald's voice hardened. "I made mistakes, but they should know their family history, their heritage. You're denying them their black roots by letting this white man play father to them." Jason stepped forward. "Those boys know exactly who they are. Their mother has raised them to be proud, strong, brilliant. You abandoned all 3 of them when they needed you most. You don't get credit for genetics. Gerald sneered at Rita. Him, after everything his family did to you? You're choosing the man whose mother paid to destroy you? Rita's voice was steel. No, I'm choosing myself first. And if Jason proves he's actually worth the risk, maybe I'll choose him too. But you stopped being my father when you sold me to Terrence for $50,000. Get in your car. Don't come back. We have nothing to say to each other. I'll file for grandparent rights in court. Do it. I have lawyers now. I have resources now. I built this business from sleeping in a shelter with twins in a playpen behind my flower cart. You'll lose, and you'll die knowing you destroyed your only child for money and pride. Your mother would be ashamed of you. Rita's laugh was bitter. My mother would be proud I survived everything you put me through. She'd be proud I built this life. Can you say the same? Gerald deflated, realizing he'd lost. He got in his car and drove away. Rita stood watching until his car disappeared from view. Then she collapsed. Jason caught her, holding her while she shook. You did it! You stood up to him. I'm shaking so badly. That's adrenaline. Completely normal. You were incredible. I don't feel incredible. I feel like throwing up. That's also normal after confronting the person who hurt you most. Rita looked up at Jason, still in his arms. I'm going to need time. Real time. Not weeks, months, maybe a whole year or more, to work through everything in therapy, to learn how to trust again. I'll wait. What if at the end of all that time I'm still not ready? Then I'll wait longer, as long as it takes. What if I'm never ready? What if I'm too damaged to ever let someone in completely? Then I'll have spent however long watching you be the most amazing woman I've ever known. That's not a waste of time. That's a privilege. Rita started crying again. How are you saying all the right things? I'm not. I'm just being honest. I lost you once because I wasn't honest enough or strong enough to fight for you. I won't make that mistake again. The twins arrived then, dropped off by their morning babysitter. They ran to Rita with typical 5-year-old energy. Mama! Mama! Look what I drew! Liam shoved a crayon drawing of flowers at her. George saw Jason and lit up. Mr. Jason, are you staying for breakfast? Mama makes really good pancakes. Rita and Jason exchanged looks over their heads. Rita, carefully, Mr. Jason has to work, baby. But maybe he could come over for dinner tonight. Both boys cheered and danced around. Yes, yes, can we show him our room? Jason, to Rita quietly. Are you sure? No, but I'm trying. That has to count for something. That evening, Jason came to Rita's small house for the first time. It was modest but filled with love. Twins' drawings covering the refrigerator, photos everywhere, plants in every window, lived in and real. Dinner was chaotic. Liam spilled juice. George knocked over the salt. Both boys talked over each other, trying to tell Jason stories. Rita looked exhausted but happy, and Jason fit into the chaos like he'd always belonged there. After the twins went to bed, Rita and Jason sat on her tiny back porch, citronella candles keeping mosquitoes away. I'm starting intensive therapy next week, Rita said. Twice weekly. For the PTSD, the trauma, all of it. Good. Do you want me to come to any sessions? Maybe eventually, not yet. I need to do this alone first. Whatever you need. I need to fix myself before I can let someone in properly. You don't need fixing. But I understand wanting to heal before being vulnerable. Rita looked at him in candlelight. I wrote you a letter once. When I was in the shelter, 8 months pregnant, terrified out of my mind, I never sent it, but I still have it hidden in my bedroom. What did it say? That I loved you. That I was sorry for disappearing without explanation. That I hoped someday you'd forgive me even though I couldn't forgive myself. That you were my person and always would be, even if I could never be yours again. Rita, I want you to read it. But not tonight. When I'm actually ready to let you all the way in, I'll give it to you. I'll wait for that too. You say that a lot. Because I mean it every single time. Rita stood up suddenly. Jason followed. They were inches apart on her small porch, Miami night air warm and thick around them, crickets singing in the darkness. "I'm not ready for everything," Rita whispered, "but I'm ready for this." She kissed him, deep, desperate. 6 years of longing and loss and love and grief all poured into one moment. Jason kissed back, hands gentle on her face, in her hair, holding her like she was precious and breakable and everything. It wasn't rushed, it was reverent, like they were both afraid the other would disappear if they stopped touching. When they finally broke apart, both were crying. "I missed you," Rita said against his mouth. "Every single day for 6 years, even when I hated you, even when I tried to love Derek. Every day I missed you. I'm here now. I'm not going anywhere. I promise. Promise me even when it's hard, even when I push you away because I'm scared. Promise you won't leave. I promise for the rest of my life. I promise." They held each other on the porch until nearly midnight, not talking, just being together, healing. Rita's phone rang at 12:30. Jason was getting ready to leave, respecting boundaries about not staying over. She answered. It was the police. Terrence was at the shop, had broken in, vandalized everything, spray-painted "These are my kids" across the walls in huge letters, destroyed thousands of dollars of flowers and equipment and inventory. Rita's world crashed around her again. "No, no, 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 that's my business, everything I built. I'm coming with you right now." They raced to Parker's Petals, police lights everywhere. The shop was destroyed, flowers trampled and crushed, glass broken, walls spray-painted with Terrence's rage and entitlement. Rita stood in the wreckage of 6 years of work and broke down completely. Deep, wrenching sobs that came from somewhere primal. Jason held her while she cried. "I can't do this again. I can't rebuild again. I'm so tired of fighting." "You don't have to rebuild alone. Not this time. Never alone again." Terrence was in custody already, but the damage was massive, devastating. Rita looked at her destroyed shop, crushed flowers everywhere, her beautiful displays ruined, spray paint on walls she'd painted herself. Maybe Gerald was right. Maybe I'm cursed. Everyone who gets close to me suffers somehow. No, people who hurt you are the problem, not you, never you. But Rita's walls were going back up. Jason could see it happening in real time, like watching a fortress rebuild itself. "I need you to leave," Rita said quietly. "Please, I need to process this alone." "Rita." "Please, Jason, if you meant what you said about waiting and respecting my boundaries, prove it. Leave. Give me space to think." Jason wanted to argue, wanted to stay and help and fix everything, but he'd promised to respect her boundaries. "Okay, but I'm one phone call away, anytime, day or night." He left, hating every step. Rita stood alone in her destroyed shop, surrounded by trampled flowers and broken glass, crying silently. Her phone lit up with a text from Jason. "I'm here when you're ready. Today, tomorrow, a year from now. I'm not going anywhere. I love you." Rita read it 3 times, didn't respond, but she didn't delete it either. She sat down on the floor in the ruins of everything she'd built, exhausted and broken but not beaten, not yet. Never beaten. Chapter 9. The Breaking Point. 1 week of silence. Rita hadn't contacted Jason once. He respected her request for space but sent 1 text each day. "Still here, still waiting, always." The shop was covered by insurance, thankfully. Terrence was in jail awaiting trial for vandalism, breaking and entering, violating the restraining order Rita had filed. Gerald Parker's lawyers had contacted Rita about grandparent rights, but her own lawyers were confident they'd win given his documented abandonment. Rita was handling everything alone again, exactly how she'd survived for 6 years. She was in the empty shop at 2 a.m., unable to sleep. The twins were with a babysitter. She just stood there staring at walls, still marked with spray paint that hadn't been cleaned yet, trying to find the energy to keep fighting. Her phone rang. Liam's school. Emergency contact needed urgently. Miss Parker, Liam fell from the playground equipment during recess. Possible broken arm. He's asking for you. We need you at the hospital immediately. Rita's hands went numb. I'm on my way. 20 minutes. She called the babysitter. Can you bring George to the hospital? My car broke down this afternoon, actually. I can call a ride service, but it might take 40 minutes with George. Rita started panicking. She needed to get to Liam. George needed to come to the hospital. She couldn't be in two places. She called Derek out of habit, straight to voicemail, called her neighbor. No answer. Then she called Jason, 11:47 at night. He answered on the first ring, alert immediately. Rita, what's wrong? Are you okay? Liam's in the hospital. Possible broken arm. I need someone to get George from the babysitter and meet me there. I know I said I needed space, but text me the babysitter's address right now. I'll get George. I'll be at the hospital in 20 minutes maximum. Jason, 15 minutes if traffic cooperates. Text me the address. Jason arrived at the hospital with George at 12:23 a.m. George ran to Rita crying. Mama, is Liam okay? Is my brother okay? He's okay, baby. Just a bad fall. The doctors are helping him. George saw Liam through the ER window, arm in a temporary splint, looking small and scared and in pain. George started crying harder. That's my brother. I want to see him right now. Jason knelt down to George's level. The doctors are fixing his arm right now, buddy. They need space to help him. You're being so brave. George hugged Jason suddenly. I don't want to be brave. I want Liam to not hurt anymore. Rita watched Jason comfort her son with such natural ease. No awkwardness, no hesitation, just present and genuine. The doctor came out. Ms. Parker, Liam is asking for you, and he specifically wants to know if Mr. Jason is here. Rita looked at Jason, surprised. He's asking for you. Can I come in with you? Yeah, please. They went in together. Liam saw them, arm in a bright blue cast now, eyes red from crying but trying to be brave. Mama, Mr. Jason, it hurts a lot. Jason sat beside the hospital bed carefully. I know it does, buddy, but you're being really tough. And that cast is actually pretty cool. In a few days when you feel better, you can have people sign it with markers. Liam, 5 years old and hurting. Will you sign it first? If your mama says it's okay. Liam looked at Rita with pleading eyes. Can Mr. Jason sign my cast? And can he please come home with us tonight? I don't want to be scared anymore. Rita's voice cracked, seeing her baby hurt and afraid. Yeah, sweetheart. He can come home with us tonight. 2:30 a.m. Rita's house. Both twins asleep finally. Liam with his new cast. George in the same bed holding his brother's other hand protectively. They shared bunk beds, but George had climbed into Liam's bottom bunk tonight. Rita and Jason in her tiny living room, exhausted beyond words. Rita broke the silence. You dropped everything at midnight. Didn't ask questions. Just came. Of course I did. You needed help. That's what people who love each other do. Derek would have come eventually, but you were there in 15 minutes. Where are you going with this, Rita? I'm going to the place where I admit I'm completely terrified. Letting you in means risking everything I've rebuilt. If you leave, I won't survive it. I know I won't. But I'm more terrified of living without you. I've been doing it for 6 years, and I don't want to do it anymore. Jason moved to sit beside her on the worn couch. I'm not going anywhere. I've said it before, but I'll keep saying it until you believe me. But what happens when this gets really hard? When my PTSD kicks in badly? When the twins have terrible days? When Terrence eventually gets out of jail and tries something else? When Gerald sues for custody? When you realize raising another man's children is more complicated than you thought? When your business needs you in New York? When you get tired of dealing with all my damage? Then we handle it together. All of it. The nightmares and the hard days and the legal battles and the complications. Together. I'm not some kid anymore who doesn't understand what commitment means. I'm a man who knows exactly what he wants. I want you. I want Liam and George. I want the difficult days and the beautiful days. All of it. Rita went to her bedroom, returned with an envelope, worn and old. addressed to Jason Dudley in shaky handwriting that was clearly written under extreme stress. This is the letter I wrote from Hope House Shelter when I was 8 months pregnant, alone, terrified. Jason took it like it was something precious. Do you want me to read it right now? Yes, because it says everything I still can't say out loud without falling apart. He opened it carefully. The letter was written on cheap-lined paper dated 6 years ago. Jason, I'm sitting in a shelter called Hope House, writing this at 3 in the morning because I can't sleep anymore. I'm 8 months pregnant with twins. They're not yours. They're the result of the worst night of my entire life. But I still feel them kick, and I love them because they're innocent in all of this horror. I want you to know I didn't leave you. I was taken from you. Your mother and my father orchestrated everything together. They forced me to marry a man who hurt me in ways I still can't write about. They paid him to divorce me the next day. Then they threw me away like garbage when I couldn't disappear quietly enough. I didn't tell you because I loved you too much. Your company would have been destroyed. Your father's legacy ruined. Everything he built gone. So I chose your future over our present, over us. I pray every single day that you'll somehow find me, that you'll burst through the shelter doors and take me away from this nightmare. But I know you won't because you don't know where I am. I made sure you couldn't find me to protect you. I'm sorry I wasn't strong enough to fight for us. I'm sorry I chose your empire over our love. I'm sorry for absolutely everything. If you're somehow reading this someday, know that I loved you with everything I had. I love you still even now. I'll love you when these babies are born. I'll love you when I build whatever life I can manage without you. I'll love you when I'm old and grey and these twins have children of their own. You were my person, Jason. You'll always be my person, even if I can never be yours again. Rita. Jason was crying by the end, full tears streaming down his face. You were in a shelter, pregnant with twins, traumatized, and you were worried about me, about my company, about protecting me. I loved you. That's what love meant to me, protecting you even if it destroyed me. I should have found you. I should have torn the entire world apart. You're here now. That's what matters. Jason set the letter down carefully on her coffee table. I don't deserve you. I didn't deserve you 6 years ago. I don't deserve you now. But if you'll let me, I'll spend the rest of my life trying to become the man you deserve. Rita was crying now too. I don't need perfect. I need present. I need real. I need someone who shows up at midnight when my son breaks his arm. Someone who works at my flower shop for 6 months at minimum wage just to prove commitment. Someone who stands up to my father and cuts off his own mother. Can you be that person forever? I already am that person. I've been that person for 6 months. I'll be that person for the next 60 years if you let me. The twins aren't yours biologically. They're yours. That makes them mine in every way that matters, if they'll have me. They already love you. They ask about you constantly. I love them. I love their terrible knock-knock jokes and their crayon drawings and the way George protects Liam. I love every single part of them because they're part of you. Rita stood up suddenly. Jason followed. They were inches apart in her small living room, both crying, both terrified, both desperate. I'm ready, Rita whispered. For what? For you. For us. For being absolutely terrified and doing it anyway. They kissed, deep and consuming and healing. 6 years of grief and longing and love and loss, all pouring into this moment. It wasn't gentle or careful. It was desperate and real and exactly what they both needed. Jason pulled her closer. Rita's hands in his hair. They were both crying and kissing and holding each other like they'd disappear if they let go for even a second. I love you, Rita said against his mouth. I never stopped. God knows I tried, but I never stopped loving you. I love you. I'll always love you. This is it for me. You're it, forever. They moved to Rita's bedroom. The twins were asleep down the hall. They were quiet, reverent, rediscovering each other. Jason saw her cesarean section scar from the twins' birth, kissed it gently. You're beautiful. Every part of you. Rita traced his face like memorizing him. I was afraid I'd forget what you looked like, what you felt like, but I never did. You'll never have to memorize me again. I'm staying forever. Their reunion was emotional, passionate, healing. Rita cried halfway through, not sad tears, but overwhelmingly happy ones. Jason stopped immediately, concerned. Are you okay? Do you want to stop? I'm home. For the first time in 6 years, I'm actually home. They held each other until dawn broke over Miami. Morning came with small hands shaking Jason awake. Mr. Jason, you stayed. You're still here. George was bouncing on the bed with 5-year-old energy. Liam stood behind him, cast-covered arm held carefully, looking happy. Rita woke up laughing. Boys, what did we talk about regarding waking people up gently? George couldn't contain his excitement. But Mama, Mr. Jason is here in our house in the morning. That means he stayed all night. Liam, quieter but equally hopeful. Does this mean Mr. Jason is staying forever now? Like really staying? Rita and Jason exchanged looks full of everything. Jason sat up carefully. Would you guys be okay with that? If I stayed around a lot more often? George nodded enthusiastically. Yeah, then you can teach me to ride my bike without training wheels like you promised. Liam, and you can come to my school art show next week. I'm showing my flower drawings. I'll absolutely be there, buddy. George hesitated, then looking at Liam. They seemed to have a silent twin conversation. Liam spoke up, shy but determined. Mr. Jason, can we call you something different? Like what? Another twin look. Then George blurted it out. Can we call you Dad? The room went completely silent. Jason looked at Rita. She was crying but nodding permission. Only if you want to, Jason said carefully to the boys. No pressure at all. I'm happy being Mr. Jason too. George rushed to explain, we want to. Our other dad was mean and he's gone. Derek was nice, but he left too. But you stayed even when Mama was sad. You came when Liam got hurt. You help with flowers, and you make Mama smile. That's what dads do. Real dads. Jason's voice broke. Then yeah, you can absolutely call me Dad. Both boys piled onto him in a hug. Rita joined them. A tangle of arms and laughter, and tears, and healing. Chapter 10. The Reunion. 6 months later. Parker's Petals reopening day. The shop was bigger now, completely rebuilt, better than before. The sign read, Parker's Petals, family owned, in elegant script. Rita stood at the ribbon with scissors, looking powerful and happy. Jason beside her wearing a shirt that said, Assistant Manager, that made Rita laugh every time. Liam and George in matching little suits, holding the ribbon ends with serious 5-year-old concentration. The community showed up, customers, friends, supporters, people Rita had helped at the shelter, everyone. Even Derek came, bringing flowers. Congratulations, Rita. You deserve all of this. Thank you for everything, for being kind enough to let me go. Derek smiled genuinely. You needed to be ready for the real thing. I'm glad you found it. Rita looked at Jason, who was preventing the twins from eating the ribbon. Yeah, me too. Gerald's grandparent rights case had been dismissed completely. His lawyers found the documented abandonment and contract with Terence too damning. He'd died 2 months later. Rita hadn't gone to the funeral. She didn't feel guilty about that choice. Terence was serving 18 months for vandalism and violating the restraining order. When he got out, he'd have supervised visitation rights only if he completed rehabilitation and parenting classes. The twins didn't ask about him anymore. They had the father they'd chosen. That evening, Rita and Jason's house. They'd moved into a bigger place together 4 months ago. The twins were asleep after an exciting day. Rita and Jason on the porch with wine, her head on his shoulder. I have something for you, Jason said. He pulled out a small velvet box, opened it. A simple ring, elegant but not flashy. Perfect. I'm not asking yet, he said quickly, because I know you might need more time, but I want you to know I'm going to ask eventually. This ring is a promise that I'm not going anywhere, ever. Rita took the box, looked at the ring. What if I'm ready now? Are you actually ready? Jason, you've been here for every panic attack, every therapy session that broke me open, every legal meeting about Terence and Gerald, every middle-of-the-night twin emergency. You didn't run when it was hard. You didn't run when I pushed you away repeatedly. You just stayed. I don't need more proof. I need you to ask. Jason slid off the porch swing, got on one knee right there. Rita Parker, you're the strongest, most beautiful, most incredible woman I've ever known. You built an empire from absolute nothing. You raised two amazing sons completely alone. You survived hell and came out stronger and more brilliant. I don't deserve you. But if you'll have me, I promise to spend every day trying to be worthy of you. Will you marry me? Rita didn't hesitate even a second. Yes, absolutely yes. He slid the ring on. They kissed under Miami stars, everything finally right. From inside the house, "Mama, Dad, we can't sleep and we heard talking." They laughed together. Back to reality. Rita yelled, "We'll be right there." To Jason, "Welcome to forever. I've been waiting 6 years for this forever." They went inside together, bedtime stories and twin negotiations and the beautiful chaos of family. The four of them ended up in the living room, Jason reading a story with Liam on one side, George on the other, Rita watching from the doorway, hand on her ring, smiling at the family she'd built from ashes. 1 year later, the family photo on their mantel showed Rita visibly pregnant, Jason's hand on her belly, the twins excited about being big brothers. Everything they'd lost, everything they'd found. Everything they'd built together through patience and pain and choosing love over fear. A family, not perfect, but real. Broken pieces made whole through time and trust and never giving up. Epilogue. 5 years later, Rita stood in the second location of Parker's Petals, watching through the window as Jason taught 10-year-old Liam and George how to arrange wedding bouquets for a customer. The twins had grown into confident boys who knew their story, knew their biological father had made terrible choices, knew their real dad was the man who chose them every single day. They'd asked the hard questions over the years, and Rita and Jason had answered with honesty, wrapped in love. Terence had completed his rehabilitation, but the boys had chosen supervised visits only twice a year, and that was okay. Gerald's death had freed Rita from fighting legal battles, and she'd used that energy to build her business into 3 locations and a non-profit teaching floral design to domestic violence survivors. The little girl Jason and Rita had together, 3-year-old Maya, was currently covering herself in rose petals in the corner while her big brothers laughed. Rita touched her belly where baby number 4 was growing, watching her family through glass and sunlight, and felt peace she'd never imagined possible. The nightmares had faded to occasional whispers. The walls had come down brick by brick through therapy and Jason's relentless presence. She'd learned that love wasn't about never being broken. It was about finding someone who'd sit with you in the ruins and help rebuild something even more beautiful. Jason looked up then, caught her watching and smiled that smile that still made her heart skip after all these years. He mouthed, "I love you," across the shop floor. Rita mouthed it back, meaning it with everything she was. She'd survived the worst and found the best. That was her story now. Not the girl who was taken, but the woman who rebuilt herself and let love in when she was finally ready. And that made all the difference. The end.